there's no real decision making going on. We're doing what the drill says, 3 cross, 1 line, whatever it might be. Okay, that's good. All right, so that's direction. So the third of the ball controls that I like the kids to, or I want the kids to be able to learn to control is depth. Now, depth comes as a function of 2 other things, at least 2 other things, maybe 3. Okay, it comes as a function of height and speed, doesn't it? The height and speed combination would determine depth. All right, now the reason I've left depth till third is that I want to try and isolate as long as possible one particular ball characteristic. So we've isolated height and worked on it. We've isolated direction and worked on it. And now we start to need to combine several ball characteristics to really get what we want, okay? So although I'm not working deliberately on speed of the ball, I'm going to need the kids to learn to vary the speed of fraction and to vary the height in order to get more or less depth, okay? I also want the kids to be able to mix height and direction together. And so we start at the next level being able to start to add more than one ball control in at the same time. So it just makes it a little bit more complex, a little bit more advanced, okay? So similar exercises but for depth, okay? Now again, don't shoot me down for these not being tactically specific and tactically right, because I'll tell you right now they're not, okay? But that's not the goal of the exercise. The big goal behind this is I'm asking Susan as a 6 or a 7-year-old or whatever, can you, more often than not, deliberately control where the ball lands in the court? That's what I'm simply asking, okay? All right? Now, later on, that will become a very useful tool for when Susan wants to maneuver me around the court deliberately. Moonball, drop shot, whatever it might be, angles and so on. So, at the moment, and at face value, this is not a tactically sound exercise. But we know that, and we're willing to go with that because that's not the goal for the exercise. Okay? So, Susan?
Yes, sir.
We're going to go 3, 2, 1. Can you see the zone here?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll move that one out of the way to avoid confusion. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So, you're going to hit in order. You're going to hit 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1. Okay? Now, I can either tell Susan or I can let her discover, but what I'm looking for is her to be smart to use the height speed combination to achieve what she wants. Okay, so I'm going to wait and see what she does. Okay, Susan, you ready? So I'm going 3, then 2, then 1. So the 3 first. Okay, good. Now 2. Good. Okay, and now a 1. Very good. Okay, so these are stroke variations. So the standard stroke, if you like, the standard issue stroke is this one here. All right, and we've already talked about how we might modify that to get a 3 for the extra height. We've talked about how we might modify it going down the line here as opposed to going across. And now we're talking about modifying the length of the swing. And it was very noticeable that your 3 had this, but your 1 had this. And that's right, because the distance to the target is less, so logically we need a shorter swing for it. Okay? So let's do it one more time. 3, 2, 1. 3. Then 2. Just about, give you that one, and 1. Okay? All right, and then we can start to get a little bit more creative. And Susan, this time you can choose where you go, but you've got to tell me in advance of your hit which number you're going for.
Okay.
All right, so you choose, you decide, and then you do. Okay?
Ready?
Yeah.
3.
Okay?
3. 3.
Okay, a bit late, a bit earlier.
Okay. 2. 2.
Touch earlier.
3.
Okay, so this is actually pretty relevant to tennis because I have to decide first where I'm going to hit and then I have to hit. The only difference here is I'm vocalizing it. But what we do on a tennis court is we look, we decide, and we execute. That's what we do. So this is actually very similar. It's an almost identical process to what Susan would do without having to vocalize it. Same thing, okay? And of course we can come up with countless little drills like that. This one is without direction. It could be that we go depth and direction together. So if I just mark this board out into squares. Okay. Right, so I've given you 4 quarters there, give or take. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So It could be that we color code each one. If I ask you just to remember 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2.
Okay, whichever way.
The other way.
All right,
'Cause
one.
I've already trained a certain way. So
All right, so you're going 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so you tell me in advance if you hit where you're going.
Okay.
You ready?
She's already trained one way. 2. 3. 2.
Okay, and so on. So now we're starting to combine direction and depth together. Yeah? We can make it, I'll come in a second, we can make it far more regimented where we go in that order. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 3, 2, 1. Whatever we do, colors, red, blue, green, orange, whatever. But then eventually I want to pass it over to Susan. She's the one who's going to have to make the call before the hit. Question?
So if you have a child that is struggling to play full court,
Yep.
full red size court,
Yep.
can you still do these exercises but just keep it just 2 quadrants instead of 4?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can do what you like. It's just the rationale.
Well, I guess why I
you
was
do it.
asking that,
No.
I was asking that more as if they're challenged to be able to play full court, is this too much for them to then be doing it at this level?
Yeah, and you'll soon see whether they're up to coping with it because the rallies are going to break down so often. Okay?
So try it and then pull
Yeah,
back if you need
and
to.
this is where I think it's really important. And you know, when leaflets, you know, whether it's the USTA or whether it's the LTA or the ITF or whatever, we have the measurements for the courts, and that's absolutely right. Okay, there's no issue whatsoever with the idea of a 36-foot court. But the important thing behind it is that the coaches need to understand, well, what happens if the kids can't play in a 36-foot court? It doesn't mean I go back to teaching it like golf. It means that I'm in control of the playing environment because the player can't change what they do. So then the solution is to do the same type of things on a smaller court until they can do it. And then we gradually grow the court up to the 36-foot limit. Yeah? I'd like to say it's common sense, but sadly it's not that common with a...
That's the most uncommon thing of all sometimes.
At what time or at all would you, in this situation, train how quickly decisions are made? You know, so you're telling her earlier,
Yeah.
and so doing something along the lines of having somebody at the net saying now and seeing when that decision is being called out relative to when the ball's crossing the net.
In my experience, if you can get your kids consistently doing it like Susan was, although on occasions it was a fraction late, if we can get them consistently calling before they hit, that's a result. All right? To take it any earlier than that then becomes considerably more difficult. Have a go. I don't know the answer.
And I'm just wondering
It would stretch kids a
at
little
8
bit
and
more, I
under
agree.
or at 10 and under, certainly at 11-year-olds, that me out here teaching lessons with Kateri
Yeah.
and her dad
Yeah.
calling out over
Yeah.
the net as she's having to decide whether she's trading or
Yeah.
neutralizing.
Yep.
Once it became a competitive little game with her, and she recognized, okay, what I was actually trying to do was actually, if I could make the call, the decision before the ball actually got to the net, it was giving her a lot more time to execute. That the whole decision process, the having to think about what I was trying to do, was actually slowing her down. So
Yep.
she found that the earlier she made a decision and just lived with it,
Yep.
the more time
Yep.
that she had for execution purpose.
At what point in a child's sort of age and development that happens, I think that's a movable feast. I think I'd be pretty confident in saying you're unlikely to get that consistently happening at red, but certainly through orange and green, that's the sort of thing you're looking for. Okay, so I mean, as an example, as I understood what you're saying, Dewey, if I could just show you another little something which can work. Okay, we're going to do a 3-shot rally, Susan.
Okay.
And then on the 4th one, I'm going to move in any particular direction, and I want you to go the other way.
Okay.
All right, so you can only decide once you've seen me move.
Okay.
So I'm dictating how quickly and how early she's got to make the decision, but I'm also challenging her peripheral vision, her ability to be able to look up and around as well as focusing on what's on right in front of her. Yeah, okay, so we'll do the 3 cross, and then you've got to look and see which way I go and go the opposite way into the corner for a winner, yeah? Got it? Okay, so that's your first. That's to second. No, you come back to me every time for 3. Yeah, 3 back to here.
Okay,
You'll
you're
do
talking
3,
me
and then on the
three.
4th one,
Okay.
I'm moving somewhere, and you go the opposite.
Different ball.
Okay.
All right.
Right. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. Yeah. All right, and that forces her to have to make the decision at the speed I want it made at. Okay, and I can go early and then fake. I can do what I like. Is that the sort of thing you're alluding to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything like that. And at what point in time do you introduce?
Again, it's one of those things to try. Coaches, I find coaches love to have things nailed down to a particular point in time or a particular age.
Yeah, well,
and it's not that straightforward. I think you just got to suck it and see.
And I guess my thought was, is it something that at the end of red you could do, not so much at an age can you do? So is that something that you can do on a red court at some point? So you're looking for where that point is versus can you do it on an orange court, or are you waiting for it to be on a green court?
I don't have factual sort of evidence behind my answer, but I would say at orange and beyond, I would expect the kids to be able to do that. You may find that some of them are able to do it late red, but I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. I would, if you push me, I would say probably by late red, I would expect a large percentage of kids to be able to do that. Yeah. Okay. But the other thing is also that the kids are notorious for indecision as well. They make a decision. It's like the sweets chocolate thing, and then we open the bag of sweets and he's decided he wants chocolate again. So they change their mind all the time as well. So that's the other element to this.
Well, I think one of the things that I would train is to live with the bad decision based on my own world and everybody that I know.
Yeah.
Of how many times did you could actually watch somebody change their mind and miss a shot.
Yeah.
That's almost death. That's the curse of death.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just live with it.
Yeah.
And still train, did you make the right one? But when you've made it, execute it to the best of your ability.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than hit the right shot poorly.
Sure. So in summary, I think I'm saying probably towards the end of red, I think it's possible, and then I would expect them to be able to do that orange through to green. Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right. So, look, I mean, we could do more. I'm mindful of time. I think you probably need to have a little break as well. But the summary so far, and we've only talked here about both back. We've only talked about the baseline game. So I want to go back to some of these and look at it from the serving and the returning point of view. Okay? So when parents say to me, well, why are the kids spending 3 or 4 years at red? You can see how much work there is to do. It's not a race to see how quickly I can get from level 1 to level 2. It's not a computer game. It's not a race to see who can get there first. All right? It's about the quality and the consistency with which it's done. All right? And I think for that reason, and when we start breaking it down into these sort of things, there's an awful lot of work to be done. It will take a long time for a lot of kids to get to a standard where they do this stuff well. Yeah, and of course, the old adage is that you get out what you put in. So if you only put in 1 hour a week, you're going to take a lot longer to achieve than if you do 3 or 4 or 5 hours a week. Okay, so you know, to me, these are all illustrations of just how much work there is to do. The other comment, just as an aside, is watching Magdalene and Dewey just running a minute ago, and I said to Magdalene, you tell me that that's not fun. You tell me that you're not enjoying that. They were basically tearing around from corner to corner. Okay, and that's because they're playing tennis. That's because they're doing what tennis is about: hitting and running, hitting and moving, dicing and ducking and diving, and all the rest of it. Okay. All right. So, what other combinations are there? Well, height and depth together. All right. If I can hit the 3, then I may logically use that to give me the depth. Okay, so I might go 3 high, cross court. I might go 2 down the line. Yeah, and that would start to build into the cross and then the finish down the line type of thing. Okay, there are all sorts of different combinations, but the principle, which is the important thing I want you to take, is we work gradually, and as the kids get older and a little bit more advanced, a little bit more mature, then we can start to combine some of these things together. If you give them too many things together too soon, they will short circuit and they'll just go and do what they want rather than trying to do what you're asking them to do. Yeah? They won't not play. They would just play their own game because they don't understand the game that you're trying to get them to play. Okay? All right. Should we have 5 minutes? Just a quick break, and then we're back on, and I wanted to cover some similar things with the serve and the return, and so on.